Your name, where'd your name come from?
My name, it came from, well, have you ever seen the movie Belly?
Yes.
So, you know, Keisha.
Oh.
She's like a dark skinned Keisha. She's like a brown skinned Keisha. So in that movie, like she played, I just love the role that she played. Like she played the whole like boss female, you know what I'm saying? Like she handled the business, like they respected her. Like when Tommy was in the house and he was like, yo, y'all gotta keep that down because Keisha gonna wake up and cuss everybody out. Everybody respected her. So, I mean, I don't know. I just kind of like, I like the role that she played herself. So, you know, I just kind of took that and ran with it. I was like, oh, I'm light skinned Keisha because I feel like I'm a boss.
Now, what is your ethnicity?
I am black.
Do people think you're something else?
Yeah.
What do you get? What do you hear?
They just, usually everybody just will ask me what I mix with or whatever. And it's probably 9 times out of 10 because they be seeing my edges.
I never knew there was a love like this before. Never had someone to show me a love like this before. I never knew there was a love like this before. Never had someone to show me a love like this before.
Skin color continues to shape our lives in powerful ways. In the United States of America and around the globe, the cultural messages that give meaning and value to different skin tones are both deeply historical and actively contemporary. People of color with dark skin tones continue to pay a price for their color, and the light skin continue to benefit from their association with whiteness. Only a slow dismantling of the larger system of white racism in the United States and around the globe will initiate a change in the color hierarchy it has created. But this is not to say it will be easy. Talking about colorism and internalized racism can be challenging. So today I'm going to be discussing Light Skin Keisha, basically why she called herself that and how pretty much the public responded to it. I also want to look at, is she an exception to the rule? Calling yourself light skin considered like a title of glory, etc. So Light Skin Keisha happens to be a rapper and an actress known for her roles in Power Book 2, Insecure, and P-Valley. A lot of people like her because she has like this very lively personality, and some people find her relatable. But a lot of people have been upset that she decided to name herself Light Skin Keisha.
I don't use my name as a way to say, hey, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
In that aspect. I've never used it as far as like, oh yeah, my name is Light Skin Keisha because I'm light skinned and I'm prettier than you. I would never do no shit like that.
People really think that though?
Yes. And so
That's so
but
crazy.
they think that and they'll be saying like, oh, if you have light skin in your name or whatever for identity or whatever, like for a personality trait, like you lame as fuck or whatever, da da da. But it's like I've never used that. It's really more so just a catchy name. You know, I've explained it multiple times. Like it's like, say for instance, okay, it's like, okay, well, you know, Keisha. Who Keisha? Light skin Keisha. Light skin Keisha, dark skin Keisha. Who? Like
light skin Keisha.
Exactly, light skin Keisha in that aspect. But what I will say is this: as of recently, I have been thinking about changing my name, but only on my own terms, not because that's what people want.
Mm-hmm.
Only on my own terms because I really don't care what people like, you know.
Yeah.
But it's for me. It will be for me if I do decide to go through with it because I feel like, okay, I have Light Skin Keisha, then I have Big Bang Bisha.
Yeah, I like
everybody always call me Bisha. When they see me, they always be like Bisha, Big Bang, Bisha, Big Bang. Like, and so, but what I will say is this: I don't erase the fact that colorism is a big issue within the Black community, especially when it comes to women.
And some people argue that it wasn't much different than mulatto calling herself that, but some people do say that it's an exception. So the reason why Light Skin Keisha says she named herself that is because I've heard like 2 theories. One is that her name was Keisha and she was a lighter skinned person in her like community. And so people say, you talking about, you know how people use the script, it's like, oh, you talking about Light Skin Keisha, whoop de whoop de whoop. And then often in interviews, she says things like, oh, no, I like the movie Belly, and Keisha was a bad bitch, and I was lighter than her, so I said, I'm going to call myself Light Skin Keisha.
And were you Light Skin Keisha from the very beginning?
I mean, I've been Light Skin Keisha for a long time, so I don't know, like, To say the beginning, I mean, I don't know, but it's like I've been Light Skin Keisha for a very long time. So I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
how to really
Well-
describe it.
Well, when you first started rapping, though, you were Light Skin Keisha?
Yes.
Or you had a different name?
Yes,
Okay.
I was Light Skin Keisha, always.
Okay. And did you get any pushback from that name?
Not necessarily, not like pushback. I think like there are people who kind of like just look over it and they know like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not meaning like anything like, you know what I'm saying? Like trying to be like, oh, she's a colorist or anything. Like there's a lot of people who get that, you know what I mean? But then there's some people that they'll comment certain stuff and be like, oh, she's not even light skin, or why does she call herself Light Skin Keisha, and that's so colorist and stuff like that or whatever. But me as a person, I just feel like, you know what I'm saying, at the end of the day, like you have to understand what colorist actually means. And I feel like you also, before you get to judging and assuming that somebody is this and that or that and this or whatever, you have to understand where the meaning of that name comes from. And that name does not come from anything of being colorist. You know what I'm saying? A colorist is somebody who discriminates against one's skin tone or whatever, and you know what I mean, and you know what I'm saying, try to use that against them or whatever. I've never, in no way, shape, or form, in no way, period, have ever used a skin tone against somebody, you know what I'm saying, or why they couldn't work with me. Like if you check my resume, even in the treadmill video and whatever video, it doesn't matter. Like I always made sure that I use, you know what I'm saying, even with my dancers that I go perform on stage with, I make sure, you know what I'm saying, not even just make sure, but it's just shit, who I like, you know what I mean? Like I work with brown skin girls, I work with dark skin girls, I work with light skin girls, you know what I'm saying? Like, and even in the videos, like I've worked with plus size girls, you know what I'm saying? Because I stand for women, period. So I feel like when people get to judging and being like, oh, you know what I'm saying, why is her name Light Skin Keisha? Like you have to understand where that comes from, and you have to also know, if you accept it, then you know that that doesn't come from me being colorist. Like, cause I'm not a colorist. I'm a black girl. You know what I mean? Like both of my parents are black. My mom and dad is black. You know what I'm saying? I'm a black girl. Like, why would I be against something that I am? I would never do that. You know what I mean? And I stand for black women, period. And you know, I love black women. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, like I'm never going to be against something that I am personally, period.
Well, yeah, I mean, but unfortunately in 2019, colorism in the black community is still a thing.
It is still a thing. It is still a thing, and I will agree. It is still a thing, but when you come to Light Skin Keisha, at the end of the day, like Light Skin Keisha is not a colorist.
And so some people would say things like, okay, I get what you're saying, but you're brown skin. Why couldn't you call yourself brown skin Keisha? And I guess you could say this up to debate. To me, I think it was more marketable, unfortunately, for her to just call herself Light Skin Keisha, because, again, you hear people talking about it. I think that when we think about colorism, oftentimes it does come with privileges. And unfortunately, some people who are brown skinned, they rather identify with light skin because they know it will provide them the most amount of privileges. And unfortunately, there are a lot of brown skinned people who think they are light skinned. So Light Skin Keisha would ultimately change her name to Big Bang Keisha. Again, a lot of people would criticize Light Skin Keisha and be like, why would you say yourself that? Call yourself that. Your colors, whoop-de-woo. She would respond, how am I a colorist when my name is inspired from me paying homage to a dark-skinned woman? Whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. Light Skin Keisha reminds me a lot of the fact that she changed her name, actually, even though some people feel like Lotto had the right to call herself that because that was a term that people used and still use to this day. But in this days, it's kind of seen as derogatory. And again, a lot of people feel that a lot of people use skin descriptors to pretty much depict their whole personality or give themselves value. I'm just going to play some different public opinions, and then I'm going to give my final conclusion.
All right, so somebody made this post saying, congratulations to brown skin Kesha. Like, let's just stop. Obviously, people, especially like black people, our skin tone tends to change during the seasons. Particularly if you're brown, you end up being, chocolate one day, then you caramel the next. And I feel like for light skinned people, you caramel one day and then the next day light skin. And then people in the comments was like, yeah, because I see nothing light skin. Like, okay. Honestly, if you like a caramel, like a certain tone of caramel, like skin specifically during the winter. Somebody put up, well, she light skinned back then. And then they put up like an old clip of her when she had braces and all that. And yeah, she's pretty high yellow. Then I read of somebody saying that she said when she was younger, she was surrounded by a few other girls named Keisha. So in order to separate which Keisha is this Keisha, they ended up giving her the name Light Skin Keisha. Keisha, so yeah.
I'm so happy that you asked. Let's get into it. So I'm going to get to this really quick and briefly, but before I do anything, I just want to say that my intent behind this video is to provoke thought on how we have the conversation about colorism and to encourage a healthy dialogue around colorism. Also want to point out that in discussing Black people's complexion, the range of brown is the topic, light and dark are the measurements. So technically, when we throw brown skin in between light and dark skin, it is categorically incorrect, but that's probably a conversation for another video. Do y'all remember that dress that went viral on the internet a few years ago and it had people debating for weeks on if it was white and gold or black and blue? Yeah, that dress. So that is a prime example of why I believe we see complexion differently because our eyes see color differently. With that said, I believe skin undertones and the way light reflects on your skin has an impact on how you perceive complexion. As you can see, there's cool, warm, and neutral. And within that, there are olive, golden, yellow, and red undertones. It's a whole thing. Lastly, the litmus test on where light and dark skin start and stop is heavily impacted on where we grew up geographically, as well as how diverse the Black people were in skin complexion where you grew up. So I chose 4 medium brown dark skinned women, and I said what I said earlier about us being categorically incorrect. They are dark skinned women who are medium toned, which you guys call brown skin, it's fine. But I just wanted to show the difference in when I was talking about undertones. The twins to me have like this like yellow or golden undertone. Gabby very much is giving neutral. Regina has like an olive undertone, I think. And then Nia has a red undertone. Okay, so these 5 women are just representing a range of brown skin tones from light to dark. I probably could have went lighter or darker with like Atisha and Ducky Thought, but I'm gonna use Kiki for example. Let's say Kiki grew up in Chicago and all the women around her were Asian Naomi King and Lupita skin tone. Well, she's the lighter of the two. So Asia and Lupita are going to get the brunt of colorism because they are the darkest ones. And y'all think I'm playing with y'all, but I've seen stories on Twitter where people who are Megan Good's color thought that they were dark skinned because they grew up around a bunch of Amandalas, and really they're light skinned as well, but they were the darkest in their school. So this is why I said I think that where you grow up and the diversity around you is important to how you perceive skin complexion.
But it's not though. When people talk about light skinned people, they include biracials, and they're never the topic of conversation. Light skinned Keisha is what a monoracial light skinned Black woman looks like though. Like, I don't know if y'all ever I've seen light skinned Keisha in person. She's the same color as mulatto. So how's mulatto light skinned but light skinned Keisha not? And you can't sit up here and tell me that me and light skinned Keisha is the same color. She's not brown. She's not caramel. I'm not including all them extra fake words. The lady is light skinned. If you look up light skinned Keisha without makeup, if you go look at her YouTube videos without makeup, that lady is light bright. Okay? Light. Like, let's be for real here. Like, they the same color. She's not brown. She's not dark skinned. She's a light skinned monoracial Black woman. That's just like, come on.
I'm just being messy. Tell me where you think the cutoff for light skin is. For comparison purposes, this is Cameroon and this is Castina. This used to be my shade. Got to tell y'all what I think. I'm gonna go to everything on this side is not light skin.
So someone says, why do so many brown skinned people from the South think they're light skinned? Who told Keisha she's light skinned? A lot of people are anti-Black and have internalized colorism. A lot of people feel like having dark skin is so bad. There is a spectrum of like brown skin, but I think that so many people don't want to have any proximity to it that they would say that they're light skinned just because they aren't dark brown. And again, I do think it's okay to acknowledge their skin shade when there's a negative connotation to it. So many brown skin or dark skinned people who say they're not Black they're not dark skinned. And I think it's because a lot of people suffer from internalized colorism. Someone else says, Light Skin Keisha started referring to herself as a lighter version of Keisha from the movie Belly when she was younger. She was also the lightest Keisha in her neighborhood, so everyone called her, quote unquote, Light Skin Keisha. I never understood why her name is Light Skin Keisha, and she's always been a dark-skinned, brown-skinned girl. Unless the name is some type of insider, I don't know. Why does she still go by Light Skin Keisha? She has a beautiful brown, tawny complexion. It's her undertones. She isn't high yellow like Sweetie or Lotto, but she is light-skinned. She photographs darker. I've noticed this because I also photograph darker than what I am most of the time. I'm gonna be honest, I've never heard someone say they photograph darker. If anything, I feel like your picture often shows your complexion unless you lighten it or you have like great, I guess, quote unquote, light that maybe show a different side of you, or if you just have a crappy phone. I feel like the camera on your phone usually does show the real you. Y'all consider Light Skin Keisha light skin or just a lighter shade of brown? To me, she's lighter than Keisha from Billy, where she got her name from, but definitely not light enough to call herself Light Skin Keisha. Now that I do agree with for the most part. I think she's lighter than Keisha in the movie. I think she was trying to be marketable, but if she was to simply say she was light skin, I don't necessarily agree with that. But I do know when it comes to like brown skin, light skin, it's a lot of debate towards that. And that's why I say I don't even like getting in conversations myself a lot of times, because I do feel like to a degree it's holding up white supremacy. So again, to acknowledge someone as the skin is fine, but when people start arguing over it, it's just like, are we trying to be more favorable towards white supremacy? Like, what is it? Because people being angry that she's calling herself light skin is interesting. I don't know. It's just some of the conversations behind it is a little bit problematic to me. It seems that overall Light Skin Keisha didn't mean to disrespect anyone by naming herself Light Skin Keisha, but I do think that it does highlight that there is privileges in being light skinned. She seems just like another young person in love with the nostalgic movies of Black cinema like myself. However, colorism is a sensitive topic, and the trend of people naming their social media usernames as light skin, whoop-de-woo, has not always been received well. I think that Light Skin Keisha does have talent, and the fact that she is Black has left her to be criticized, and has left her to be criticized yet not be canceled. I think that if she was someone who was mixed, etc., or actually lighter skin, that she would have probably been canceled a long time ago or dragged even more. But I think some people probably find pity in her because they may feel like, oh, she wants to be considered light skin. I also think that when she appears lighter, because she is a brown skinned woman, one may help to wonder if she is in fact lightening her skin or is suffering from internalized racism. What are your thoughts about this? Let me know down below. And thank you so much for listening to Books and Looks TV. I'll see y'all next time.